I was standing in my kitchen, making coffee for Linda and Tyler when I heard her voice from the living room. Once he's drained, we'll put him in a home and keep the rest. Her laugh cut through me like broken glass. Tyler's voice followed. How much more can we squeeze out of him? I canceled the remaining $38,000 transfer to Tyler's landscaping company that same afternoon. They would learn what it meant to betray Richard Holden. This was just the beginning. The kitchen smelled of fresh coffee and Linda's vanilla perfume when I walked back to them with the steaming mugs. Tyler was showing us pictures on his phone from the landscaping job they completed last week, the Hendersons' backyard transformation. Look at this, Rick, Linda beamed, snuggling against my arm. Our boy is doing so well. The business is really taking off. Tyler grinned, that same crooked smile that had charmed me from day one. I couldn't have done any of this without you, Rick. Dad never believed in me like you do. He called me Dad. My chest swelled with pride, just like it had every time over the past 8 months. The Hendersons are already recommending us to their neighbors. We might need to hire another crew by spring. That's wonderful, I said, pulling Linda closer. Maybe we should celebrate tonight. How about that new steakhouse downtown? Linda's eyes sparkled. You're too good to us, Rick. I don't know what Tyler and I would have done without you. She kissed my cheek, and I breathed in her familiar scent. This was what happiness felt like, I thought. This was what family felt like. After Martha died, I never thought I'd feel complete again. The three of us had spent the previous Sunday afternoon at Tyler's job site, watching him direct his crew as they installed a stone retaining wall. Linda packed sandwiches and sweet tea, and we sat under the shade of an old magnolia tree like a real family having a picnic. Tyler kept running over between tasks, explaining the technical aspects of drainage and soil grading. I listened to every word, fascinated by his passion and expertise. Actually, Tyler said, setting down his coffee, there's something I wanted to talk to you about. There's an opportunity to bid on the new shopping center landscaping project. It would be huge for the company, but we'd need equipment financing. Maybe another $40,000. I didn't hesitate. Of course, whatever you need. The words came easy because this was my family now. This was my legacy. Martha and I never had children, but Tyler filled that void. He called me for advice about everything: business decisions, relationship problems, even what kind of truck to buy. Linda would smile and say, he never talked to his real father like that. You're amazing, Rick, Linda said, reaching across to squeeze my hand. Tyler's lucky to have someone who believes in him so completely. We both are, Tyler added, and his voice cracked slightly. I know I haven't always made the best choices, but having you in our corner changes everything. But then Tyler's phone rang, and he stepped out to answer it. Linda went to use the bathroom. I was alone with their conversation drifting from the living room. Once he's drained, we'll put him in a home and keep the rest. The coffee mug slipped from my hands. The crash echoed through the kitchen, but I barely heard it. Linda's laugh, that laugh I'd fallen in love with, turned poisonous in my ears. How much more can we squeeze out of him? Tyler's voice was casual, like he was discussing the weather. Maybe another 50 grand, then we're done. The old fool thinks he's buying family. Mom always said he was the perfect mark, lonely old widower with money and no kids. My throat constricted. Linda's mother? How long had they been planning this? What about when he gets suspicious? Tyler asked. We'll gaslight him. Tell people he's getting dementia. Who's going to believe a confused old man over his loving family? My vision blurred. The kitchen walls seemed to close in around me. Dementia. They were going to destroy my reputation, my mental capacity, my very identity to cover their theft. The beauty is we're already married to him, Linda continued. Legal access to everything. And if he tries to cut us off, I'll take half in the divorce and claim he's mentally incompetent. My legs gave out. I sat heavily in the kitchen chair, staring at the coffee spreading across the floor like spilled blood. The house went quiet except for the sound of their footsteps returning. Rick? What happened? Linda's voice was honey-sweet again. Concerned. Slipped, I managed to say. Just clumsy. Tyler helped me clean up the mess, patting my shoulder. Careful there, Dad. We need you in one piece. Yes, they needed me in one piece. Until they didn't. I looked at Linda's engagement ring, the one I'd bought her with $8,000 from Martha's jewelry fund. Martha had saved for 23 years to buy herself something beautiful, but cancer took her before she could spend a penny on herself. Use it for something that makes you happy, she'd whispered during our last conversation. I thought Linda's ring made me happy. Martha and I had met at an accounting firm in 1982. She was a secretary. I was a junior accountant fresh from college. Our first date was miniature golf and ice cream. We couldn't afford much, but we laughed until our sides hurt when Martha's ball ricocheted off 3 walls and somehow ended up in the water hazard. I'm better with numbers than golf, she'd said, and I knew I was in love. We saved for everything together. Our first apartment required 6 months of eating ramen and sharing one car. Our house down payment took 3 years of brown bag lunches and homemade coffee. Martha would clip coupons and comparison shop for hours to save $20 on groceries. Every penny mattered because we were building something together. The rental condo came in 1998, purchased with our combined savings of $35,000 as the down payment. Martha researched neighborhoods for months, analyzing rental rates and property appreciation. This will be our retirement nest egg, she said, standing in the empty living room with the purchase contract in her hands. We celebrated with champagne that cost $12, expensive for us then, but Martha said some moments deserved champagne. This was the same Tyler I'd given $65,000 to start his landscaping business. The money came from selling that condo Martha and I had bought with such hope and careful planning. We'd planned to retire there someday, sitting on the porch overlooking Charleston Harbor, watching the sunset paint the water gold. Instead, I'd sold it 3 months after her funeral to fund Tyler's dreams. For 8 months, I'd been writing checks. $2,800 for the down payment on his truck, a red Ford F-150 that Tyler claimed was essential for the business image. $12,000 for commercial equipment, mowers, edgers, leaf blowers, and a small excavator. $4,500 every month for Linda's car payment because Tyler needs to establish business credit first, and my credit is already maxed out from helping him before we met you. Even $3,200 last month when Tyler's girlfriend Amber needed bail money. Just a misunderstanding, Rick, Tyler had explained, his eyes wet with tears. She got mixed up with the wrong people, but she's turning her life around. You know how these young people get into trouble. One mistake shouldn't ruin her whole future. I'd written the check without hesitation. Family helped family. Martha's life insurance money, $45,000, had gone to Tyler's equipment financing. She'd maintained that policy for 22 years, paying premiums faithfully even when money was tight. I want you taken care of if something happens to me, she'd always said. She meant it to take care of me, not Tyler's girlfriend's legal problems. The $22,000 I'd saved from 37 years of brown bag lunches had become Tyler's emergency fund. Every workday for 37 years, I'd packed a sandwich and thermos instead of buying lunch. Martha calculated once that I'd saved $847 per year by bringing lunch. That's our vacation fund, she'd joke. We used that fund for 3 trips to Myrtle Beach and 1 special anniversary trip to Savannah. Even the $15,000 I'd inherited from my father's estate sale had disappeared into their endless needs. Dad's tools, his vintage fishing equipment, his coin collection, all sold and the proceeds handed over to Tyler for business expansion. Dad would have been horrified. He'd worked in a mill for 43 years and saved every dollar possible. Money doesn't grow on trees, son, he used to say. Respect it, and it'll respect you back. Every month for 8 months, I'd watched my retirement account shrink. The account Martha and I had built together, dollar by careful dollar, over 4 decades. From $120,000 down to $19,000. For Tyler's family. For Linda's happiness. For something I thought was love. The $120,000 represented more than money. It was Martha working double shifts during my night school years. It was both of us skipping vacations to maximize our 401k contributions. It was Martha darning socks instead of buying new ones, and me driving our old Honda until the transmission finally gave out at 247,000 miles. Every dollar had been earned through sacrifice and saved through discipline. I wasn't crying. I was calculating. That night, while Linda slept beside me, I sat at my desk under the small lamp and pulled out every bank statement from the past year. The numbers didn't lie. They never do. $101,000 total. Gone. All of it traced back to Tyler's business or Linda's expenses. Every withdrawal documented, every transfer recorded, every check photographed by the bank system. The pattern was methodical. Linda had started small, a $500 emergency dental bill in month 1. Then Tyler needed $1,200 for business insurance. By month 3, the amounts grew larger and the explanations vaguer. Cash flow problems became the standard excuse. I'd found myself rationalizing each expense, telling myself that successful businesses required investment. But tonight, the pattern looked different. Tonight, it looked like systematic drainage. I opened my laptop and created a spreadsheet. Column A, date. Column B, amount. Column C, recipient. Column D, stated purpose. Column E, actual purpose. For the first time, I began to see the discrepancies. Tyler's equipment purchases didn't match the invoices I'd seen. Linda's emergency medical bills coincided with expensive shopping trips to Charleston. At 6 a.m., I called my attorney, James Morrison. We'd handled Martha's estate together. "Jim, I need to see you today. It's urgent." "What's wrong, Rick?" "I've been financially abused. I need to know my options." Jim's voice sharpened. "Are you safe? Do you need immediate help?" "I'm safe for now, but I need to act quickly. Come in at 9. Bring everything: bank statements, checks, any documentation you have." Jim's office smelled like leather and old coffee. He spread my bank statements across his mahogany desk like autopsy photos. His paralegal, Mrs. Foster, took notes while I explained the timeline of transfers and loans. "Jesus, Rick, this is systematic drainage. When did you realize?" "Yesterday." I handed him the documentation I'd prepared. "Every penny is traceable. Linda had access to my accounts because we're married. Tyler received money as business loans, but there's no formal loan documentation, no repayment terms, no collateral agreements." Jim studied the papers for 20 minutes, occasionally whistling softly or shaking his head. "The frequency and amounts suggest a coordinated effort. Look here, the timing of Linda's requests always preceded Tyler's requests by 2 to 3 days. That's not coincidence. What do you want to do?" "I want my money back. All of it." Jim leaned back in his chair. "Linda has marital rights to assets acquired during marriage. But if we can prove fraud and elder abuse, those rights become void. South Carolina has strong elder protection statutes." "Can you prove it? With this paper trail?" "Absolutely. But Rick, this will get ugly. They won't go quietly, and they'll try to discredit you. Are you prepared for that?" "I'm counting on it." "What do you mean?" "The more desperate they get, the more mistakes they'll make. And I'll be documenting everything." My next stop was Eleanor Price, the forensic accountant Jim recommended. Her office was sterile, white, efficient. Diplomas lined the walls. CPA, CFE, Certified Fraud Examiner, and specialized certifications in elder financial abuse. She examined my documents with surgical precision, using a magnifying glass to study check signatures and bank stamps. "The pattern is clear," Eleanor said after 2 hours. "Classic financial elder abuse. The perpetrators isolated you emotionally, then systematically extracted your assets while maintaining psychological control through false affection." "How common is this?" "More common than people realize. Elder financial abuse costs seniors $3 billion annually. Family members commit 60% of these crimes. How much can I recover?" "In South Carolina, you can claim economic damages for financial exploitation, plus punitive damages up to 3 times the amount stolen. With this documentation, I'd estimate 80 to 90% recovery, plus damages for emotional distress." Eleanor pulled out a calculator and began working through projections. Based on the documented transfers of $101,000, you could potentially recover $300,000 to $400,000 in total damages, depending on how aggressively the court applies penalties. What's the timeline? 3 months if they don't contest. Longer if they fight, but the evidence is overwhelming. They would fight. I was counting on that too. Monday morning, I walked into First National Bank at exactly 9 a.m. Margaret Williams, my account manager for 12 years, smiled when she saw me. She'd handled Martha's death benefits and helped me navigate the complexity of spousal account transfers. Morning, Rick. What can we do for you today? I need to close the joint checking account with Linda Holden and transfer all remaining funds to my individual account. I also need to revoke her access to my retirement accounts immediately. Margaret's smile faded. Rick, are you sure? This is a big step. Have you discussed this with Linda? I've never been more sure of anything in my life. I have to ask, are you under any duress? Sometimes in marital disputes, people make financial decisions they regret later. Margaret, I'm a CPA. I understand the implications. I need you to process these requests immediately. The process took 47 minutes. Linda's access to $9,000 in checking was severed. Her ability to touch my $19,000 retirement fund was terminated. The safety deposit box we shared was sealed pending legal resolution. Margaret printed out confirmation of each transaction. Rick, I have to follow bank protocol and inform you that Linda may contest these actions through legal channels. I expect her to try. I drove home and found Linda making lunch turkey sandwiches with the expensive deli meat she'd started buying after we married. Before Linda, I ate bologna. Martha and I had eaten bologna, but Linda said bologna was beneath us now. She smiled when I walked in. How was the bank, honey? Fine. I sat down at the kitchen table and pulled out my phone. The text to Tyler was simple. The remaining business funding has been canceled. Please don't contact me again. My phone rang 30 seconds later. Tyler's number. Rick, what's going on? Did you get my text about the shopping center project? I did. The answer is no. But you promised. I promised many things. Those promises are void. Rick, I don't understand. Did I do something wrong? Is this about Amber's situation? Because that's resolved now, and I can pay you back gradually. Tyler, stop. I heard your conversation with Linda yesterday. Silence. Then, what conversation? The one where you discussed draining me dry and putting me in a home. Rick, I think there's been a misunderstanding. There's no misunderstanding. Goodbye. I hung up. Linda appeared in the kitchen doorway, her face pale. Rick, what are you doing? I'm correcting a mistake, I said. Linda's phone rang immediately. She answered, her voice shaking. Tyler? What do you mean he canceled everything? I watched her face change as Tyler explained. The color drained from her cheeks. Her hands started trembling. She kept glancing at me, her eyes filling with tears. Rick, she whispered, ending the call. Please, let's talk about this. There's nothing to talk about. I know about your plan. Her eyes went wide. What plan? I don't know what you're talking about. Once I'm drained, you'll put me in a home and keep the rest. The recognition in her eyes was immediate. Then came the performance. The tears, the pleading, the wounded innocence. Rick, you don't understand. You misheard something. Tyler and I would never. I heard everything, including your mother's role in identifying me as the perfect mark. Linda's face went white. My mother has nothing to do with this. Doesn't she? How long have you been planning this, Linda? Since before we met. Rick, please. I love you. We love you. You love my bank account. Tuesday morning, I installed security cameras throughout the house. 12 cameras with audio recording capability, all connected to cloud storage. If Linda and Tyler were going to escalate their tactics, I wanted documentation. The cameras caught Linda searching through my desk drawers at 2 p.m. while I was supposedly at the grocery store. She found my hidden spare checkbook and photographed every page with her phone. She also rifled through my filing cabinet, taking pictures of insurance policies and investment statements. When I returned home, Linda was in the kitchen, tears streaming down her face. "Rick, I can't take this silent treatment. Please tell me what I've done wrong." "You've done nothing wrong, Linda." I set down the grocery bags and began unpacking items methodically. "You've just been caught." Wednesday morning, Linda tried to access our joint account to find it empty. She called the bank, screaming about fraud and demanding to speak to the manager. They referred her to my attorney. By noon, she'd hired her own lawyer, Robert Kellerman, who specialized in divorce cases and had a reputation for aggressive tactics. Thursday, Tyler showed up at my office. My assistant, Julie, tried to stop him, but he pushed past her into my private office. "Rick, you're destroying my business. My crew can't make payroll. I've got invoices due and equipment payments. That's not my problem anymore." "It is your problem. You promised to support the business. I have contracts based on that funding." "Show me the contracts, Tyler." He fumbled in his pocket and pulled out crumpled papers. I examined them, purchase orders for work, but no mention of guaranteed funding. "These aren't funding agreements. They're work orders. Your inability to fulfill them isn't my legal responsibility. Your family doesn't conspire to commit fraud." Tyler's face flushed red. "What fraud? I never committed fraud. $65,000 in business loans with no documentation, no repayment terms, and no legitimate business plan. That's fraud, Tyler." He started yelling then, loud enough that Julie called building security. 2 guards escorted Tyler out while he screamed about stolen money and family obligations. 3 of my long-term clients witnessed the scene. Tyler's landscaping crew couldn't make payroll that week. 2 of his employees quit. Friday, Linda filed for divorce. Her petition claimed I was mentally unstable and had sudden personality changes consistent with dementia or other cognitive decline. Her lawyer demanded temporary alimony of $3,000 per month, immediate occupancy of our marital home, and a 50% split of all marital assets, including my retirement accounts. The petition painted me as a confused elderly man who'd been manipulated into making irrational financial decisions and needed court protection from my own diminished capacity. Linda claimed she'd been the responsible party managing our household finances and that I'd recently begun displaying paranoid behaviors and unfounded accusations. My counterattack was methodical. Jim filed fraud charges with the state attorney general's office. Eleanor completed her forensic audit and submitted a 47-page report documenting systematic financial exploitation. I provided recorded conversations. South Carolina is a one-party consent state, and I'd been recording everything since Monday. The recordings were devastating. Linda on the phone with Tyler. "He's getting suspicious. We need to move faster." Tyler responding, "Maybe we should back off for a while." Linda, "No, we're too close. One more big score and we're done." I also had video evidence from my security cameras showing Linda searching my private papers and taking photographs of financial documents. Her lawyer had claimed she was only trying to understand the family finances, but the footage showed systematic document theft. Eleanor's audit revealed additional irregularities I hadn't noticed. Linda had been using my credit cards for personal expenses and marking them as business deductions on Tyler's company taxes. She'd also taken out a $15,000 home equity line of credit, using our house as collateral, money that went directly to Tyler's girlfriend Amber for a luxury car purchase. The court hearing was scheduled for 3 weeks later. During that time, Linda's behavior became increasingly erratic. She started calling my friends and former colleagues, warning them that I was having mental problems and that they shouldn't believe anything I said. She contacted my doctor's office, trying to access my medical records to prove cognitive decline. Linda also began what I can only describe as a charm offensive. She showed up at my office with my favorite lunch, begging for forgiveness. She sent flowers with notes saying, "I love you. Please come home." She even enlisted Tyler's children, kids I'd grown fond of, to call and ask why Grandpa Rick was being mean to their dad. But the security cameras caught her true activities. Late-night meetings with Tyler at the house, where they discussed hiding assets and creating false documentation of loan agreements. Conversations about playing the dementia card harder and making him look unstable in court. The hearing day arrived on a gray November morning. Linda arrived in a conservative blue dress, hair pulled back, minimal makeup, playing the part of the concerned wife. She'd brought Tyler and his children as character witnesses. Her mother flew in from Florida to testify about my strange behavior during holiday visits. Linda's lawyer painted me as an elderly victim of cognitive decline who needed protection from my own decisions. Your Honor, Kellerman argued, Mr. Holden's erratic behavior began suddenly 6 months ago. He's made irrational financial decisions, cutting off his own family without explanation. Mrs. Holden is asking the court to protect her husband from his own diminished capacity. Linda took the stand with tears streaming down her face. She described a loving marriage that had turned into a nightmare when I suddenly became paranoid and cruel. She claimed I'd accused her of stealing money and plotting against me, accusations she characterized as delusional. I love my husband, Linda testified. I'm terrified for him. He's not the man I married. Something's wrong, and he needs help, not punishment. Tyler's testimony was equally manipulative. He described me as a father figure who'd suddenly turned against the family for no apparent reason. He claimed I'd promised to fund his business, then irrationally withdrawn support, leaving him unable to pay employees or fulfill contracts. Rick was like a dad to me, Tyler said, his voice breaking. I don't understand what happened. All I ever wanted was to make him proud. Then Jim presented the evidence. Bank records showing $101,000 in transfers, all to Linda or Tyler across 8 months. Phone records documenting Tyler's lies about business expenses. Security footage from the bank showing Linda making large withdrawals without my knowledge. The forensic audit proving systematic exploitation. But the most damaging evidence was the recordings. Judge Harrison listened to Linda's voice planning my destruction. Once he's drained, we'll put him in a home and keep the rest. The courtroom was silent as Tyler's voice followed. What if he gets suspicious? And Linda's response, we'll gaslight him. Tell people he's getting dementia. Linda's face went white as her own words played back. Tyler put his head in his hands. Even their lawyer looked stunned. Judge Harrison was 62 years old. He'd seen this pattern before in 23 years on the bench. Mrs. Holden, Judge Harrison said, you claim your husband is mentally incompetent, yet these financial records show sophisticated planning and documentation. The evidence suggests deliberate fraud, not confusion. Linda's lawyer tried to object, arguing that the recordings were taken without consent, but Jim reminded the court of South Carolina's one-party consent law. Your Honor, Mrs. Holden emptied their joint checking account of $9,000 after Mr. Holden discovered her scheme. This is retaliatory financial abuse. The judge reviewed Eleanor's report for 10 minutes while the courtroom sat in silence. Linda was crying softly. Tyler sat in the gallery, his face buried in his hands. His children kept asking their grandmother what was happening. I'm ordering full restitution, Judge Harrison announced. Mrs. Holden will return the $9,000 taken from the joint account immediately. Mr. Tyler Brennan will repay the $65,000 in business funding, with 6% annual interest, within 90 days or face asset seizure. But Judge Harrison wasn't finished. Furthermore, I'm awarding punitive damages of $150,000 for elder financial abuse, to be paid jointly by Mrs. Holden and Mr. Brennan. Mrs. Holden forfeits all claims to Mr. Holden's retirement accounts and individual assets. She will vacate the marital home within 30 days. Divorce granted with prejudice. Linda collapsed in her chair. Tyler started shouting about the unfairness of the judgment. Security had to restore order. The aftermath was swift and merciless. Tyler's landscaping business collapsed within 6 weeks. Without cash flow, he couldn't pay his commercial lease. His equipment was repossessed by the financing company. The crew found other jobs. His business license was revoked for unpaid taxes and failure to carry required insurance. Tyler tried to declare bankruptcy, But the court judgment included a clause preventing discharge of fraud-related debts. The $65,000 plus interest and his share of punitive damages followed him. Linda moved back in with her sister in North Charleston. She got a job at a grocery store, making $12 an hour. Her car was repossessed when she couldn't make the payments I'd been covering. She declared bankruptcy 4 months later, but like Tyler, the court judgment survived the bankruptcy process. The home equity line of credit Linda had secretly taken out came due. Since she no longer had access to my income and the house was awarded to me in the divorce, she couldn't make payments. The bank foreclosed on the remaining balance, leaving her credit destroyed. Amber, Tyler's girlfriend, left him 2 weeks after the business collapsed. She took the luxury car Linda had helped her buy and moved to Atlanta with a new boyfriend. Tyler was alone, broke, and facing years of court-ordered restitution payments. Linda's mother, who'd flown in to support her daughter's deception, found herself under investigation by Florida authorities. Eleanor's audit had uncovered evidence that the targeting of vulnerable elderly men was a family business. Linda's mother faced charges for her role in identifying and grooming Marks. I sold the house in Charleston and moved to Asheville, North Carolina. The cabin I bought sits on 2 acres of mountain land, surrounded by oak trees that Martha would have loved. I paid cash $147,000, with money I recovered from the lawsuit, plus interest and penalties. The cabin needed work, but I enjoyed the renovation project. Installing new hardwood floors, updating the kitchen, building a wraparound porch where I could sit and watch the sunrise over the Blue Ridge Mountains. Martha had always wanted to retire somewhere with mountain views. 3 days a week, I volunteer at the Western Carolina Senior Legal Aid Clinic. I help elderly people recognize financial abuse and protect their assets. I've saved 17 people from losing their life savings to children, grandchildren, and new spouses who saw them as ATM machines instead of human beings. My first case was Dorothy Mills, an 81-year-old widow whose son had convinced her to add his name to her bank accounts. He drained $87,000 over 6 months, claiming he was investing her money in cryptocurrency. We recovered every penny and had him arrested for elder abuse. My second case was Harold Peterson, whose 45-year-old daughter had moved back home after her divorce, then systematically sold his belongings and taken over his Social Security payments. Harold was living on crackers and water while his daughter spent his money on luxury items. We got him into safe housing and recovered $34,000 in stolen assets. Each case reminded me how lucky I'd been to discover Linda and Tyler's scheme before they'd completely cleaned me out. Many seniors aren't as fortunate. They lose everything and have no recourse, no energy to fight back, no family members who care enough to help. The legal aid work gave my life new purpose. Martha would have approved. She'd always said I was good at protecting people with numbers and documentation. You see patterns other people miss, she used to tell me. That's a gift. Last month, Linda called me. Tyler had been arrested for check fraud. Apparently, he tried to run the same scam on an 80-year-old widow in Somerville. This time, he'd forged her signature on several checks totaling $12,000. The widow's grandson was a police detective who'd immediately spotted the fraud. Linda needed money for Tyler's legal defense. His court-appointed attorney was recommending he plead guilty to avoid a lengthy sentence, but Linda wanted to hire a private lawyer for trial. Rick, I know things ended badly between us, but Tyler's still my son. He made mistakes, but he doesn't deserve to go to prison. What he deserves is consequences for his actions. Please, you know what prison does to people. He'll never recover from this. Linda, Tyler is a predator. He's 32 years old and has spent his adult life stealing from vulnerable people. Prison might be the only thing that stops him from destroying more lives. I'm sorry, Rick. I can't help you. Rick, please. He's my son. He made mistakes, but he's still family. Family doesn't drain each other dry and plan nursing home abandonment. I hung up. The evening mountain air was crisp and clean. I made coffee and sat on my porch, watching the sunset paint the ridgeline gold. Martha's photo sat on the table beside me, the one from our 30th anniversary, where she's laughing at something I'd said about the waiter's terrible hairpiece. She would have been proud of the way I handled Linda and Tyler. Martha never tolerated lies or theft. Make them face consequences, she used to say about people who took advantage of others. Justice isn't about revenge. It's about making sure they can't hurt the next person. I kept the newspaper clipping about Tyler's arrest. Not for satisfaction, but as a reminder. Evil often disguises itself as love. Need often masquerades as family. But numbers don't lie. Bank records don't have emotions. And sometimes the best way to protect yourself is to protect your money first. 6 months ago, I met Patricia at the senior center. She's a retired teacher, widowed like me, with grown children who visit every weekend without asking for money. We've been dating for 4 months now. Last week, she suggested we take a trip to Savannah together. Patricia's children are genuine. Her son called last month to offer help with yard work, bringing his own tools and refusing payment. Her daughter sends homemade cookies every few weeks, just because. They include me in family gatherings and ask about my volunteer work, genuinely interested in my answers. I said yes to the Savannah trip, but I'm keeping my financial accounts separate. Not because I don't trust Patricia, she's nothing like Linda, but because I've learned that love and money should never mix until you're absolutely certain which one is real. Patricia understands completely. She's kept her finances separate too, having learned similar lessons from friends who'd been taken advantage of by late-in-life relationships. Smart people protect themselves, she said when I explained my position. That's not cynical, it's responsible. Last week, Patricia's grandson asked me to help him understand retirement planning. He's 24 and wants to start saving early. I spent 2 hours showing him compound interest calculations and explaining investment basics. He took notes and asked intelligent questions. When he left, he hugged me and said, "Thanks for caring about my future, Mr. Rick. That's what real family feels like. Investment in each other's success, not extraction of each other's resources. True love doesn't come with a price tag. Real family doesn't have their hands out. And authentic relationships don't require your retirement fund as proof of commitment. Sometimes the best revenge is simply refusing to be a victim twice." The story doesn't end with Linda and Tyler's destruction, though that provided necessary justice. It ends with the life I've built since then: meaningful work protecting other seniors, genuine relationships based on mutual respect rather than financial exploitation, and the peace that comes from knowing I honored Martha's memory by refusing to let predators destroy what we built together. Every morning, I wake up in my mountain cabin and feel grateful. Grateful for Martha's love, which taught me what real relationships look like. Grateful for the strength to fight back when threatened. Grateful for the opportunity to help others avoid the trap I nearly fell into. Linda and Tyler taught me that evil doesn't always announce itself with dramatic gestures. Sometimes it arrives with homemade cookies and Father's Day cards, slowly and methodically extracting everything you've worked for while convincing you it's love. But they also taught me that documentation defeats deception, that truth prevails over manipulation, and that justice, while sometimes delayed, can be remarkably thorough when finally delivered. If you liked this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions in the comments below. Have you ever experienced financial betrayal? How did you handle it? Your stories help others recognize the warning signs and protect themselves from similar situations.